Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the Iraq map, which just released in DCS. I've flown it just a tiny bit. I haven't checked out that much in the Iraq map. It just flew around Baghdad a little bit. So we're going to take a closer look at the Iraq map, and we'll just see how it looks. We're just spawned in outside of Baghdad, and I wanted to show you guys what it looked like in the helicopter view, because DCS is using a brand new way of developing maps, which is satellite imagery, and there's a bit of a trade-off with satellite imagery versus that of normal hand-painted textures. And on lower ground, the trade-off is that when you're lower to the ground, the textures may not look nearly as good compared to hand-painted textures, but up in the air it should look a lot better. And as you can see, I think the textures are fine closer to the ground. We're just going to fly a little bit closer to Baghdad here and just fly around Baghdad. And I wanted to kind of spawn in a place with a lot more houses and just kind of put the system to a little bit more of a test here, see how well optimized the Iraq map is. And so far frame rates seem to be pretty decent. Maybe just a little below 60 FPS, maybe just a little bit higher. So far looks pretty good. Also, you'll notice that I'm not playing in VR anymore. I'm going to be doing a video on that at some point. I'm not using Track IR, this is Open Track, and I'm going to be doing a video testing the differences between Track IR, Open Track, and VR. So stay tuned for that. And so far, Open Track seems to be fine. Just to kind of start out, I don't really know if I kind of enjoy it that much, but it seems to be doing the job. So we're nearing Baghdad's center right here. So far, frame rates still look pretty decent. And as we near the center of Baghdad, it looks fine. We can see some palm trees. We're just getting a little bit low, and you guys can see that there's a couple skip frames. Nothing too bad. Again, textures on the ground are fine. They look alright. Just flying along in Cobra here. And it's not like a hard stop with, I think the water, they've kind of changed it up a little bit. It's not like a hard stop anymore. It kind of looks like it's fanned out a little bit, so it looks a little bit more realistic as we're just slowly flying away at here. Speed it up here. Now, right now we're above the international airport of Baghdad, and it looks pretty good actually. Looks fairly close to the actual Baghdad airport. So maybe you guys can set up some stuff here for like after Desert Storm kind of stuff. Keep flying along. So now that we're flying closer to Baghdad, you can see that the frame rates are definitely dropping by a decent amount, and that's just because of how many buildings and stuff are around Baghdad. So we're definitely dropping probably about 40 FPS, maybe about 30. So you can definitely feel it. It's not unplayable, and granted, I'm playing at like max settings for 1080p, and now the frame rates are, let's say, about 30 FPS right now. You can definitely feel it. You can definitely see it as we're flying over top of Baghdad here. And that's just because there's just so many objects here. And definitely if you're playing on the Iraq map and you're looking at playing near the center of Baghdad, maybe if you're looking at putting anti-air systems near or on the center of Baghdad for Desert Storm, you're probably going to have to turn your graphics settings down. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of frames dropped here. But it does look pretty good. As we're zooming out and we zoom in, you can see the frame rates start to pick up as not so much as being rendered anymore. But as we zoom out, yeah, there's quite a bit of drop frames right now, flying right over top of Baghdad and getting into the center here, downtown. It's definitely not unplayable, but definitely noticeable. Again, I'm playing at 1080p max settings, so mileage may vary depending on what your settings are and what your resolution is. Playing at like 4K might be quite a bit worse. But 1080p max settings with a 360 and a Ryzen 5 CPU, 64 gigabytes of RAM, it's not unplayable. Definitely noticeable, but not unplayable. As we're nearing these high rises here. As you can see, like with the open track, zooming in and out, like just kind of leaning in and out, you'll notice that it's kind of like moving back and forth, and that's just because of the open track system. And when I do my video comparing open track VR and track IR, once I get my track IR, which will be around January, yeah, you'll notice quite a staunch difference. Just previously flying over. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not terrible. Here are some of the bridges near downtown Baghdad, and during Operation Desert Storm, the bridges were noticeable targets. So you might want to do some missions where you're blowing up those targets, bridges here. That was something that was done during Operation Desert Storm, but you can do some missions around that. We're just flying over top the Tigris River here. So this is kind of like how Baghdad is. Now the cross swords are in Baghdad, so if you want to go take a look at those, that's here. We're not going to fly over there. I have seen it. It's pretty well modeled, as most things in this map are. Yeah, it's a pretty good map. I think you'll notice that in Baghdad here, you're noticing quite a bit of drop frames. But let's fly out of Baghdad, and we'll cut to that. Let's fly out of Baghdad, and we'll see how well the frame rate picks up again. As you can see already, like the frame rates have already picked up as we're outside of Baghdad here. So you definitely do notice a performance hit when flying over top of Baghdad. We're like definitely above 100 FPS now. So just keep in mind that this is early access, so some more optimization around Baghdad might be needed here. So when DCS gets to that, they should definitely do some more optimization around Baghdad to get the frame rates back up. But we'll see. We'll come back to it as there's more updates around Iraq, and we'll check out the updates as they come by. But definitely outside of Baghdad, we're noticing a a bigger jump in frame rates. I just wanted to check out Baghdad with the Cobra, so we're going to do the same thing in the F-18 as we're flying over, just to see what the textures look like at about 10,000 feet. We're flying over top of Baghdad and see what the frame rates look like. As you guys can see, as we're nearing Baghdad, we're just off the front of the nose here. Just looking at the textures down below at 10,000 feet, they look really good compared to flying at low ground. Definitely looks a lot better, and I think that's just a trade-off with the new setup here, where now they're using satellite imagery for the textures compared to like hand-painted textures of that of like the Caucasus, Syria, etc. So you can definitely notice that there's a bit of a difference, and there's a jump in frames there, little stutter there. So Iraq could definitely use some optimization, but again, it's just a brand new release and it's in early access right now. So not particularly well optimized around Baghdad, and this is going to be the most taxing. As you can see, my OpenXR is kind of moving back and forth, so that's what the jittering is. And there's nothing I can really do about that with OpenXR. And again, doing a video on that at some point once you get Track IR, and I'm going to compare OpenTrack, Track IR, and VR, and hope you guys make a decision, help you guys make a decision, sorry, around which tracking you want to use. As we can see, there's some stuttering compared to flying at low, because there's just so many objects around Baghdad. Yeah, definitely a drop in frame rates. Probably about the same, about 20 FPS. We're getting some more stuttering around here. Definitely needs more optimization around Baghdad. Zoom in here. Again, I'm playing at full graphics here, so if I wanted to get more frames around Baghdad, I could just turn the settings down a little bit. I wanted to show you guys what it looks like at max settings at 1080p. We're just flying over top of Baghdad, and definitely some stuttering. It's not too terrible, it's not unplayable, but definitely needs some more optimization around Baghdad as we're stuttering a little bit more. And I think that's honestly just to deal with my graphics settings, also just with how many objects there is right here. Ooh, that's some bad frame rate drop there. Some more stuttering. Yeah. So as we get outside of Baghdad, you'll notice that the frames start to pick up as we're not loading in all those objects at once. And as we look forward, and we're flying past Baghdad here, you'll notice that the frames start to pick up, and we're going to deal with less stuttering. Some more stuttering as there's some more objects. Flying above 5,000 feet. Start to pick up our nose here and just gain a little bit more altitude. We're stuttering. Some more stuttering. And as we get out of Baghdad, the frame rates will start to pick up. Yeah, so it seems like flying over top of Baghdad just at higher altitude, just because you're loading more objects, seems that the frame rates get a little bit worse. As we're now past Baghdad, the frame rates have picked up and it's smoothed out quite a bit. If DCS ever watches this video, or the map creators watch this video, Baghdad definitely needs some more optimization on Iraq. But as we're flying past Baghdad, frame rates have picked up quite a bit. So now we're flying at roughly about 100 FPS. I think over Baghdad, our lowest FPS was probably about like 10, and was hovering roughly about like 40 frames average. So 40 frames average drops down about 10 FPS. As we're past Baghdad, frame rates have picked up a little bit. Some stuttering every once in a while, but obviously, like, if I were to lower my graphics settings, I probably could get more frames and make Baghdad a little bit smoother for some less textures. But as we can see, it's look pretty damn good up high here at 10,000, 8,000 feet. Side view. Yeah. So, pretty damn good. Looks really good. Yeah, it does look pretty good. And we'll just go check to see what it's like at low flying altitudes. Lots of stuttering. But generally on maps like Syria or the Caucasus, I'm not dealing with that, so it's purely just this map. Again, it's early access, so I'm not expecting it to run perfectly. Definitely some more stuttering as we're descending a little bit more. More stuttering. More stuttering as we're descending. Yeah, it's definitely needs some more optimization in terms of this map. Stuttering. More stuttering. Yeah, this map definitely needs some more optimization. So at times you notice some stuttering. Now we're flying low altitude. Ooh, that's really bad. That's really bad stuttering. So it did seem like we did get a little bit better frame rates with flying with the helicopter. Moving fast at low flying altitudes. Yeah, the frame rates are... I think it's just because we're loading in more objects as we're flying faster. Yeah, this map definitely needs some more optimization. But again, if I wanted to get more frame rates, I could always turn down my graphics settings. Oof, pretty bad. But I do think if I... Ooh, that's not great. That is not very great. Ooh, that's unplayable there. That's really unplayable. Oh god. That's really bad. Maybe we've stabilized a little bit. Okay. Now that we're over here, seems like frame rates have picked up again. So, maybe lowering graphics settings when flying over Baghdad in certain areas might help you out a little bit more. But this map definitely needs more optimization, that's for sure. Yeah, as we get lower, the stuttering gets way worse. Gets way, way worse. And I think it's just the faster speeds flying lower, loading in all these shadows, all these textures. Yeah, it's really, really bad as we get down low. So definitely, yeah, this is really bad. This is, right now, I would say this is unplayable. Like the small micro stutters back towards Baghdad wasn't too terrible. And as we go up, and we're getting away from loading in all those shadows, yeah, it's stabilized by quite a bit. Not nearly as much stuttering. And I think what that is to do with is optimization at flying low altitudes, loading in all these little tiny objects in their shadows. So not a particularly great experience on that. I think if you're flying helicopter with max settings on everything, you'll be fine. You might deal with some micro stuttering. Flying high up, you'll be fine at max settings. Flying low, loading up all those textures, probably not. I think this map definitely needs some more optimization. And those mountains, though, look pretty good, actually. But flying up high, I think we're getting definitely above 60 frames per second. Flying low, so those mountains look pretty damn good. So flying low, fast moving, probably not going to be a great experience. So if you're flying in a jet, lower your settings down, because I think the too many objects and too many shadows make it not a particularly great experience, as seen. But again, it's also my system, so depending on your settings and your computer, you might get a better experience or not. But so far, flying up high, max settings, is a good experience. Flying low and fast, not a great experience. Stuttering was really, really bad. But now we're flying up high over top these mountains, which look phenomenal. They look extremely good up high. We had a little pop in out of textures there. But up high, yeah, the map looks phenomenal up here. So, yeah. Just flying over top these mountains here. We're not going to fly low altitude today, as max settings low altitude was not a good experience. But up high, pretty damn good. It looks really good over top these mountains. So Iraq definitely needs more optimization, in my opinion. The optimization is not quite there. We're now flying about 30,000 feet. Flying 30,000 feet, frame rates are looking pretty good. I would say above 100 FPS. We'll try low altitude one more time. Fast. Yeah. More stuttering as we go low. As we're loading in those textures and the shadows. Yeah, over here it's not bad so far. Flying 5,000 feet, yeah. As we're getting closer to all those trees, it's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. So, I could lower my settings down and probably get a better experience, but I wanted to show you guys what it looks like at max experience. So flying low, 3060 with 64 gigabytes of RAM and a Ryzen 5 CPU. Flying low and fast in a jet, not a great experience. Flying up high, pretty good experience. It seems like flying in a helicopter low altitude is perfectly fine because you're moving a little bit slower, not moving at about 400 knots. So, better experience up high with the jet. It is low, and overall within the helicopter experience, you're probably going to have a good time at max settings. So, definitely more optimization on Iraq's part. And DCS should definitely work on optimization. So yeah, that's my first initial thoughts on flying in Iraq. and let's go back to the map and let's talk about it. So, we're back from flying, and my initial thoughts were fairly decent until we were flying at the F-18. The F-18 at low altitudes, we experienced a lot of stuttering and not very well optimization. Obviously, if I wanted to get better frame rates, I could lower the graphic settings down, but in places like Syria, the Caucasus, the Maritimes, and other maps, I'm not experiencing that with the F-18 at all. Maybe some tiny micro stuttering, but nothing of that sort. That's probably the worst experience I've ever had on a map. So obviously in Iraq, I think I could lower my settings down and get a better frame rate at flying low and high, flying at low altitude and high speeds. But so far, northern Iraq looks great. Now, I didn't show you southern Iraq, and that's because southern Iraq is not done yet. So we only have really access to northern Iraq, which is up here, which is Baghdad, Bilal Air Base, all the way up to Bushehr Airport. And all these mountains are extremely well done. They look phenomenal at high altitude. Couldn't really experience what they look like at low altitude just because the drop in frame rate was really, really bad. So my thoughts on Iraq is generally it's okay. It definitely needs way more optimization at low altitudes. But on high altitudes, it looks phenomenal. Looking down at from the F-18 at anywhere between 10,000 to 30,000 feet, the satellite imagery for this map looks really, really good. But as we look down south of the map here, none of this is done yet. So I'm kind of a little not particularly happy with the fact that they went with northern Iraq first. I can see why they're doing it, as when it comes to like global war on terror, this is way more important to like modern day Iraq. But given the fact that most people know Iraq for Desert Storm, I would say that they probably should have done Kuwait and done southern Iraq first compared to northern Iraq. That's just me personally. As when Iraq first came out, I was really excited to do missions surrounding Desert Storm in the F-18, but sadly we don't have access to this part yet. Like, you can fly around it, but it's not well modeled or well textured, and that's why I didn't show you guys it today. I have flown around it, but it doesn't look that great right now. So not particularly happy about that, but it will be coming in sooner or later updates, and obviously when the later updates come in, we'll see if the optimization gets a little bit better and see if they add Kuwait in soon. So the big question is, should you buy Iraq? Well, it's early access, and currently with the optimization as it is right now, I might say steer away from it currently in its current state, as it just released in early access. So I would say, yeah, steer away from it for now. I would wait for a couple of updates around Iraq and stick around and see if the optimization gets a little bit better. So I would say, unless you really, really, really want to do like some like global war on terror stuff, yeah, maybe get it. But as it stands right now, the optimization and the fact that you don't really have access to northern Iraq, I would say personally steer away from it currently in its current state until a couple of updates come by. So anyways, my name is Future Nightmares. This is checking out Iraq in a short little video, and I will see you guys around.